Welcome, Maddie, to Burning Questions. We are a content fulfillment and development company. We have offices in Toronto, Columbus, Ohio, Miami. We work with great global clients, Burger King, Popeyes, Tim Hortons, Firehouse Subs, some of which you've worked with in the past, so that's kind of interesting. And if you want to learn more about what we do at 500 Degrees, go to weare500degrees.com. One of the greatest joys that I've got working on a global scale is the people that we come into contact with that make us smarter, faster, um, the vendors, the associates, the law firms. We learn so much from each other. And what we wanted to do, Maddie, was share what we learn with others in the marketing space. And, welcome to the podcast. You started an incredible consultancy on youth marketing, and I believe it's called GirlZ. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
So it's, and I was fascinated to see the companies that you work with. Some of them we work with as well, but the NFL, Chipotle, you name it. It's a great list of clients that you've worked with. Obviously, your skills are in high demand, as well as they are on the speaking circuit, including a TEDx talk, which I thought was pretty fascinating.
Thank you.
So how did you get started in this business? What was that first little move into, hey, I think I can make money off of this. I think I can really provide value.
Yeah. I had always been really, really entrepreneurial, and truthfully, my freshman year of college, I was having a little bit of the kind of quarter life crisis of what do I do? Why am I in school? What should I major in? All that kind of stuff. And it came out a little bit just from boredom, honestly. And I was watching probably some sports game on TV or on my computer actually, and just saw a car commercial and was like, this is horrible. Like no one would buy a car based on this. And
Right.
around that same time I kind of realized, hey, I'm not a millennial, but instead part of this entirely different generation that back in 2016 no one was talking about Gen Z, and now everyone is. But and then I read a Forbes article about this kid who at the time was running a very similar company to what I've been doing for the past few years, and reached out to him, and we worked together for, I want to say, about a year and a half, and then his company was acquired summer of 2018, and since then I've been on my own.
Somebody just mentioned, oh yeah, she just wrote a cold email and got a response from Mark Cuban. I was like, what? What? First of all, why were you just saying, hey, I'm just going to write to these top 30 people and you got a response from Mark Cuban? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly the first time I emailed Mark what it was about, but I know I had emailed him and a lot of other people around the time that I was giving my TEDx talk, just kind of asking for advice, and just to kind of be able to put it in the talk, and got a lot of responses from people giving me all kinds of advice, some from TED speakers themselves and some from people who everyone has heard of in the business space. And Mark is obviously one of those people, and he was very nice.
Yeah, he's. I'm sure you watch. Maybe you don't, but Shark Tank. I'm always interested to see. He's really into. He has sort of an outside the box thinking in terms of young people and their entrepreneurial ideas and their instincts. And even if they don't bring data, they're bringing some kind of social currency into play for products. And
Absolutely.
I found it really interesting. I want to go back and sort of rabbit hole on the idea where you were sitting down, you watched a car commercial and said, "Why that just doesn't I don't even relate to this." So for marketers who, as CMOs age into their career, it takes 20, 30 years to really get to the peak for some reason. What are the mistakes that they're making, and what are the tips and tricks that you would offer in besides, hiring you as a consultant, which is a great idea. I would encourage people to do that. But what are the mistakes and tips and tricks that marketers that are boomer oriented or millennial or X oriented, what do we need to do for the Z's?
One of the biggest mistakes is that this generation moves so fast. And so something that is a trend today or an influencer that is relevant today quite literally might not be tomorrow. And a lot of the time, by the time brands are able to put out content, it's, you know, a couple months later once it's all gotten approved and we moved on, and it comes across as corny, or maybe it's not as relevant as you think it might be, or comes across as trying too hard. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that happens all the time. And I think it's more important that the brands just put out content, and less important that it is absolutely perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
And just and the perishability of content's an interesting concept in terms of if you look at the advertising development cycle of, hey, we have a concept, we tested it, it seems to be good, and it includes a slang phrase to your point of people trying to try too hard. And then by the time it actually makes it to a traditional platform or even a social platform, it could be out. Are there any horror stories that you're aware of right now?
Not exactly like horror stories. I think most of the time it just kind of gets ignored. And, you know, the content examples of brands that are actually doing a great job are so much kind of fewer and far in between. Like for example, I think SeatGeek did a great job, or has done a great job with David Dobrik. And that's what a lot of us want to see from content, is they made SeatGeek like a character in David's videos, instead of the one-off kind of hashtag ad that every company
Mm,
is doing. Because at a certain point, I think that what made the car commercial kind of like light off in my mind is it looked like every other commercial I'd ever seen in my life.
yeah.
It was the same format, it was the same thing. Like, this generation
Formula.
is exactly this generation is so used to getting marketed at all the time, and so if it looks the same as everything else, it's just not going to stick. And I think marketing is largely about, you know, people remembering and thinking about things. And yeah.
Okay, so we're going to enter a multi-billion-dollar spend in politics coming up soon. We've got 2 80-year-old, candidates. They can get into that area really quick of trying to be cool and hip and relevant and really blowing it. Have you seen anything like that, or what do you have any ideas or observations, at least coming up in this incredible world that we're gonna be in here soon?
Yeah, I mean, I think just politics in general are old for this generation, just based on everyone who's running. And I think this generation wants to see younger candidates running. So there's not an exact, I mean, I think both candidates are trying to reach this generation because they recognize the importance of the young vote. Um, and this is a generation that is largely kind of pessimistic about the future with all of the issues that we're dealing with. Wherever you stand on them, you probably disagree with how they're being handled today. So I think that we just want to see younger people trying to run. And I think maybe like a lot of the country, we're disappointed in the two candidates that are running today.
Right. Can
Yeah,
they make a difference with a different vice president candidate?
absolutely.
Yeah, and I haven't seen anybody that would roll into that equation, but, you know,
Unless one of them is going to run with Taylor Swift. Yeah.
Yeah, Taylor Swift for president. I can do a graphic logo on that. I'll send
Uh,
it to you.
I mean, she just has such a large impact on culture right now, and I know people are pretty nervous about where she's going to stand, if anywhere. And it goes for every celebrity who has an impact on this generation, not just her. But yeah.
A little bit related to the political theme. So the government goes in and out of, and I think it was a bipartisan thing, but it was the topic of we are going to crush TikTok because it's a existential threat in terms of China with their data, on and on and on and on. But it's got like 130 million daily users, and I have to imagine that many of those daily users are in the X and Z category. I don't know how you can stop a force like that. What are your thoughts on TikTok?
You know, I think the Gen Z perspective overall is that someone already has all of this data. We don't have anything that we are doing that
Right.
we care about. Like, whether it's our government or another foreign government, someone has the data. So
Sure.
why does it matter? And if that means that they get our purchasing habits or whatever it may be, like, if I talk about something with someone, I get targeted ads on my phone on it.
Totally. Totally.
So I don't know that Gen Z is as worried about TikTok as some politicians and some older people as well.
Yeah, yeah. The uh, I was reading the article of the woman that became president of X, and she was their biggest issue is just getting enough content creators, and I think the biggest issue is trying to get content creators on a platform that may not actually be the right platform to attract content creators. It's a different beast. Or will X or will MySpace come back? Will there be another platform that's going to be adopted as, hey, they get us, or it's old school is the new school?
I think there's going to be innovation in social media because there always is. There has to be. And I'm not sure if that means like MySpace coming back or Vine coming back, but I think
Right.
there'll always be new things. And what that is, I have no idea. I wish I did because I would start it and make a lot of money on it. But um it's amazing what Instagram has done and being relevant for as long as they have, and
Yeah.
even Facebook. And a lot of Gen Zers aren't using Facebook directly anymore. A lot of the purpose from what I've seen has been around college and finding roommates and that kind of thing. So very kind of particular and specific instances of why we're using it.
Maddie, when we take a look at traditional marketing that everybody has been locked on, and it's an industry, particularly in the QSR industry where we have our traditional customers that we will drive in top of the funnel advertising. We will either through the drive through or inside the restaurant talk to them in terms of, hey, we brought you in on $1.59 nuggets, for example, but we really would like you to purchase more. And there's a scale, there is a customer journey that everybody goes through. With the Gen Zs, though, however, who are device focused, and they are definitely early adopters of delivery and pickup services. How do we, with such limited time on premise, when they basically dash in and pick it up, even if they're not getting it delivered, what's that customer experience need to start changing toward?
Yeah, I think the pickup experience overall, we need to have a good sense of when it's going to be ready. So if it's going to take a little bit, that's potentially okay, but we don't want to, walk in and wait for 30 minutes. We'd rather, be able to say, "Hey, it's going to be ready in half an hour," and come pick it up then and run in and run out. So I don't know that it's all that different from every other generation. I don't think any generation really wants to walk in and wait for 30 or 40 minutes for their fast food to be ready. But it's most important that it's warm if that's, the item, and that it's ready and consistent and good.
Let's talk about the delivery experience itself, from the brand that's being delivered and who is the brand. Is it the delivery service or is it the actual product and service from the company that's being delivered?
Yeah, generally speaking, I think for fast food the delivery experience is horrible. It's cold, it's soggy, it sucks, honestly. And so I think there's room for a brand or a couple brands to really nail delivery, because we are ordering delivery, whether it is through DoorDash or Uber Eats or Grubhub or any of those apps. We're using it, especially as college students and on weekends after some alcohol has potentially been consumed. Which is where that, I guess, the delivery experience matters less in that case. But I think none of it is good. Like, for example, ordered French fries from Brand the other day, and they were just horrible. It was so sad.
The next time, if you ever get down to Miami, I'd love to take you to get our team and go to this. It's called a ghost kitchen, and this
Sure.
really opened my eyes. Where we were looking for new space for a photo studio and a video studio for our clients down in Miami, and we toured this space, and the guy said, "And you can get anything you want down below because there's a ghost kitchen down there." And I was like, "For what?" They said, "Uber bought the bottom floor and created 20 micro kitchens." And all of these brands that some of you've heard of, and some are just entrepreneurial. They make up a name and they'll serve Chinese food. But you walk through this and they say it's all about IP, it's all about the app, it's all about advertising, but we can get hot, fresh food created, delivered in seconds. And Uber is really the restaurant.
Yeah.
It's
I
just
would love to try it. I think it's a really cool concept, and I think it makes a lot of sense because, as I said, it's usually cold.
What are you reading? What's on your bedside table or next to your easy chair? What draws you away from either reading, playlist, or a podcast?
What I'm reading right now is a book about Amazon. But I'm a little weird. I'm not sure that most Gen Zers are reading that kind of stuff. As far as podcasts, I like Dax Shepard's podcast a
Mm.
lot. Armchair Expert, it's a good one. And listening to a lot of different stuff. I'm a little bit biased to Taylor Swift, but also kind of everything from like Jack Johnson, country music, all kinds of different things and songs and artists. And Spotify makes it really easy for kind of anyone to put out music, which I think is really cool.
Maddie, thank you so much for joining us. Pro tip for anybody that's out there in the advertising world or a corporation that really needs insight into Gen Z. Where do we find you? Where does anybody who wants some consulting or just wants to know who you're working with or what you're all about, where do they go?
Yeah, website is MaddieBregman.com, and all socials are Maddie Bregman as well.
Love it. Thank you. And thanks everybody
Thank
for
you.
joining us. We're burning questions from 500 degrees. On the next episode of Burning Questions, we're going to lay down the law here. Two of the greatest legal eagles in the country from the firm Davis and Gilbert. I'm sitting down with Ashima Dayal and Ina Schurer.
In an area like this where the technology is outpacing the law and the regulations, it's sometimes hard to predict.
We're going to discuss the legal pitfalls to avoid in marketing and advertising, AI concerns, and much more. You don't want to miss this episode. It's coming up on the next Burning Questions.